The last speaker tonight is someone who is a scholar. He's been looking into ancient civilizations. If you want to know where we're going, we have to know where we've been and the mysteries that the Atlanteans left behind. Hello? And what we have to discover about who we are in relationship to the greater universe and who these beings out there really are, and what keys did the Atlanteans leave behind to discover who we are and our future. Let's give Billy Carson a big, big hand. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Testing, 1, 2. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, good. It's good to see a lot of some new faces here, and also some of the past faces of people that have visited my lectures. I appreciate every single one of y'all. Thanks for coming out. Tonight I'm going to walk you through, we don't have a lot of time, we only have about an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to walk you through tonight ancient civilizations that were here. Some of you have seen me talk about that before, but I'm going to kind of break down some of the ancient tablets and scriptures that were left behind that culminated into really what we have today is a modern religious system through various different cultures, but also where it came from and a little bit about the wars of the gods and the wars that extended from Earth all the way to Mars. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you some space anomalies that have been brought down from official government images. Some of the things that people here have probably never even seen before, didn't even know existed. I'm going to show you evidence of current life and past life in our solar system. I believe that there's still potentially life out there right now, right above our heads. Not 20 million light years away, not 100 million light years away, like right above our heads when you look up at the night sky. Mercury, Venus, and Mars, okay? And even our moon. So, without further ado, we'll get the party started. Thanks. I usually play this first to test the sound. Okay. It's working. If for some of you guys who don't know me, I've been considered an expert host on many different TV shows, Deep Space on Gaia, Ancient Civilizations on Gaia. I've been on UFOs, The Untold Truth, on the Travel Channel, UFOs, The Lost Evidence, also on the Travel Channel. I now have my own show on Dame Dash Network called Forbidden Knowledge with Billy Carson. So if you have that app, Dame Dash Studios app on Android or Google or iPhones, as well as Roku TV, Amazon, Comcast, I think he just did a deal with now as well. So I've been on quite a few shows. I've produced a lot of shows and videos myself. I'm also a Billboard music artist as of 2018 last year, and I do have a lot of songs as well on various different music networks. This is my new book. It's called Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. See, I learned early on during this lecture game that you have to get your shameless plugs out of the way early, because you always run out of time. See, if you don't evolve and learn, what are you doing here? You're going to come back and recycle and reincarnation again. So I'm going to get my shameless plugs in. But but my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, it is a bestseller on Amazon. It has been a bestseller now for 6 months straight, and it's still on the top 20 list. It fluctuates between as high as number 6 and high as the number 20. I think it's number 14 right now or something last time I checked, but just, you know, it's always in the top 100, which is amazing. Out of 200,000 authors in ancient civilizations, it's always in the top, 20 or less, and that's pretty exciting. I got great quotes in there from Eric Von Daniken, Jimmy Church, Busy Gold, George Noory, Donnie Arcade, many other people that I really, truly, highly respect in this community, and I'm really excited about that. And if you want to get the book, I'll be standing up over there at the end of this lecture. I'll be at that table, and I have some books back there. I'll personalize them, autograph them for you, take a photo with you. These are some of my admins from my Anunnaki history group. As some of you didn't know, I do have a lot of accounts on social media, about 100 now, as of today, 131. social media accounts because I had to add another new account yesterday for my father. But so I run these accounts, but I do have the help of admins. More recently, my son's helping with a lot of my main accounts, a lot of my big trusted accounts that I would never give anybody to log into. But also my Anunnaki history admins. We really research ancient history together. All these people are phenomenal people, and I really want to thank them and appreciate them when I do a presentation, because a lot of the research that I put forward is based on some of the work from them as well. So today we're going to start off in the Pleiadian star cluster. You know, a lot of people, especially in this community, recognize the Pleiades and talk about the Pleiades, and you know, we talk about multidimensional beings. We talk about you know, a lot of the galactic wars and so forth that occurred. My research has led me down an enormous rabbit hole of information, to the fact now where I've started writing a movie with Damon Dash and a few other writers, Carl Jones of the Boondocks, and we're doing a movie called Chronicles of the Anunnaki. And it's going to be a box office movie. It's not going to be a, you know, documentary or just a YouTube video. It's a real movie that is going to be distributed in the box office. And one of the main reasons why is because the deeper I went into these ancient texts and tablets from the various different places around the world, I discovered that there was a galactic war that started off in the Pleiadian star cluster. And this war was a real physical war. This wasn't a etherical or multidimensional war. This is, as far as my account can tell, as far as I can tell, it appeared to be a physical, real war that occurred in this third dimension. Not to say that there's other things not going on with multidimensionals and so forth, because there's a lot of stars in the Pleiades. The seven sisters are the most popular because they're the ones that shine the brightest from this particular position we are here in the galaxy. But and these are the names of those seven sisters. But there's a lot of stars there, and there are a lot of planets there as well. But this was a galactic war. This galactic war can be found in a lot of ancient texts, a lot of Greek texts as well. A lot of the things that we're calling mythology out there that you've been told was fake in school or mythology or just like fabricated information is actually real. And the life that we're living over here is actually fake. It's actually flip-flop. Okay, not to say that our life is meaningless or worthless or whatever. What I'm saying is that the mundane day-to-day, wake up, take the kids to school, go to work, punch in, punch out, come home, you know, watch TV, go to sleep, and do it all over again. That's actually the boring life. The real life was a lot more colorful and a lot more amazing and a lot more technologically advanced and spiritually advanced as well. There was a lot of still is a lot of spiritual warfare, but there was a lot of technological and combination spiritual warfare in the ancient past. We're going to cover some of that today. A lot of this information can be found out about you know, the galactic wars and so forth. Burnham's Celestial Handbook, star names, their love and meaning, star lore of all ages, star tales, the age of fable, the Greek myths, the Reader's Encyclopedia, too, American Heritage Dictionary, fundamentals of physics, okay? Like a lot of you know that I always really like to back up what I talk about with information that people can get access to. I'm not the type of person that just likes to babble and make things up. I really want you guys to have some basis, some fundamental basis. The main purpose of my mission here is to create researchers. I'm not here to just be some type of superstar, know-it-all person. I want people to be able to be their own researcher and find out exactly what's been going on in our ancient past, and we can fix our future, because the past is prologue, okay? Thank you. So a lot of people have never seen this image. We'll kind of give you an idea. We've heard about Sirius, A, B, and C. We've heard about the Orion's Belt. We've heard about Aldebaran. We've heard about Hades and Pleiades. This is all of them in one night sky image right here. So you can get the kind of the perspective of where they are in the sky in correlation to each other, okay? All of these star systems that you see circled here are inhabited by people, real people that are flesh and blood people that put on their pants one leg at a time, just like we do. Yeah, they're real flesh and blood people. They're not gods. They didn't create the universe. Are they more advanced than us, a lot of them? Yes. But are they still just real flesh and blood living entities? Yes. There may be some at higher dimensions or higher densities as well. You know, I'm not ruling that out. But what I'm telling you is there's people in this universe, in our galaxy, in the universe, that are real people that some of them have over the eons have masqueraded as gods, and some have been deified by us because we didn't understand advanced spirituality and advanced technology. But the point I'm trying to make to you is the only true God that exists is the one that created the universe. And to date, after reading over 1,000 books, texts, scriptures, cylinder scrolls, and many other ancient records, I haven't found any book written about the creator of the universe, although I believe there is one. I just don't believe that a lot of the context we have here is talking about the true and real creator of the universe. I believe that entity or entities do exist because quantum mechanics and quantum physics proves that this is a creation that we're living in. So there is a divine energy now that I have discovered that all the ancient civilizations do know about. This divine energy flows around us, in us, and through us at all points in space-time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have access to this divine energy because it's inside of our DNA. In essence, as above, so below. We have the God energy that has created this universe, and we also have that same energy inside of our body, making each and every single one of us gods ourselves, okay? I think it's important for people to understand that. Now, in that Pleiadian star cluster, there was a galactic war between the Lyrians and the Sirians, according to those ancient texts, which I gave you some reference points earlier. This galactic war, they had a weapon, which was, we'll show you, it's called the Brahma weapon in the Bhagavad Gita. This Brahma weapon had the capability of actually destroying planets. It was a planet destroyer. So when you see the planet destroyer, the Death Star in Star Wars, this is where he got it from, George Lucas. He got it from the Terra Papers and combination the Mahabharata, because the Mahabharata and Terra Papers both have this destroying weapon, this planet-sized weapon that can destroy a planet. Now, if you're in a sector of a galaxy, let's say that there was a war in this sector of our galaxy where we're located, and we were here on Earth, and a planet exploded in our solar system. That is a massive amount of fresh debris that is now going to what? Fall towards the biggest gravitational pull, which is our sun. We're the third planet from the sun, so what's going to happen? We're going to be right in line with a lot of that debris, and that debris is going to impact our planet as it begins to break up and fall towards the sun. And some of those planet-sized pieces, or even state-sized or continent-sized pieces, will impact our planet and literally cause a global catastrophe, which would kill the majority of life on Earth, okay? So imagine now you're in the Pleiadian star cluster and something like this happens. Hopefully that wasn't me. Let me just make sure. And something like that happens. Well, now you're in a situation where you become a refugee, a space refugee, where you literally have to escape, okay? And some people will escape and some people won't make it, because guess what? In a lot of civilizations, just like here on Earth, only a small amount of people on this planet have access to space travel, and only a small amount of people have access to underground bases. Well, I believe it's probably the same no matter where you go. I don't think that all civilizations are going to be giving everything to everybody. I think there's always going to be an elite force in some cases, and in some cases there's going to be people who, for whatever reason, are left behind. But nevertheless, during this galactic war, people became refugees and escaped out of the Pleiades and went over to kind of where I was talking about before. They went over to Sirius, they went over to Orion, they went over to Aldebaran, and they went to other places as well. So these refugees began to inhabit new planets, kind of like breakaway civilizations. Okay, you hear us talking about that in the secret space program a lot. Well, one of them ended up on this planet here. This is not a planet, this is a brown dwarf star, but it has little planets that orbit it. And some refugees ended up on a planet that orbits a brown dwarf star, which is written about in the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation. And that planet was called Nibiru in the Enuma Elish, in the original version of the Enuma Elish. The Enuma Elish was then copied from tablet to tablet several times. By the time of the rule of Marduk, also known as Amun-Ra, he then changed his name he changed the name from Nibiru to Marduk because he wanted to be the destroyer. Because in the epic, Nibiru crashes in, well, some of the satellites or moons of Nibiru crashes into another planet in our solar system called Tiamat, as it was captured by the solar system gravitationally, and it crashed into Tiamat, which now became the asteroid belt, an exploded planet, okay? So he changed it to Marduk much later. But this is just a rendition of a NASA image that's kind of showing this brown dwarf star that they finally admits actually exists. This is not myth or conspiracy any longer. This is well-known, documented science, and now you can go to the library and you can actually look this information up. We live in a binary solar system. We actually have two suns in our solar system. We have our huge, massive yellow star that we orbit, and then we have a captured brown dwarf star that orbits on an elliptical orbit. Now the astrophysicists are saying every 4,200 years, versus some of the ancient texts that have been translated to be around 3,600 years. But according to astronomers now, 4,200 years, this brown dwarf orbits our sun, and it has its own little satellites orbiting it, and one of those may be this Nibiru planet. This information can be found out in the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation. Some of you here have seen me lecture on just a full lecture just on the Enuma Elish by itself. The Enuma Elish is a source of a lot of amazing information and content. If you don't know about it, I suggest you look it up. It's been translated hundreds of years before Zecharia Sitchin was born. Okay, let me say that again. Hundreds of years before Zecharia Sitchin was born, the Enuma Elish was created. Why do I bring that up? Well, because the majority of Zecharia Sitchin's work came from the Enuma Elish. He didn't translate any tablets. He just took tablets that already were translated, and he painted a picture for us as to what he thought happened in the ancient past. And that's been misconstrued, unfortunately, over the last 10 years into saying that he was the only person that had access to tablets, and he was the only person that knew how to translate these tablets. That's all a farce. Zecharia Sitchin is a phenomenal researcher. He took existing translated tablets from many different cultures, put them together, and made a story, made many books about it, so that we can have an idea of what he thinks might have happened in the ancient past. Did he get everything 100% accurate? Maybe not. Nobody can. But we all have the same underlying story. Beings from other star systems came to this planet, mined this planet for resources, and in the process began a genetic modification of some of these species and animals on this planet, creating a slave race, unfortunately, that worked for them. And we're going to go through that lineage today a little bit towards the end of this presentation. Here's the actual 7 tablets of creation. For a while, tablet 5 was missing, but they actually found it in Iraq. And so now the full tablet 5 is in existence here. And it's all of these can be found at the British Museum. So if you ever get a chance to go over to England, go to the British Museum, you can, gauge your eyes on these yourself, okay? So the Enuma Elish 7 tablets of creation, they really are the majority of the information in the Old Testament of the modern day Bible. It's literally copied, some mostly word for word, directly from the Enuma Elish. The Enuma Elish is actually a bigger story. So the Old Testament of the modern Bible, which was only written in modern times, really, 100 AD to 900 AD, by people that weren't alive during the time that the biblical people were alive. Nobody in the Bible wrote anything that's in the Bible. Nobody that was written about, in the Bible. It was all written by people hundreds, even thousands of years later, just so you know that. The people that were spoken about, the disciples mostly, they were actually illiterate people that couldn't read or write. And these books that were written about these people came from ancient texts, the people that wrote these texts themselves wrote various different scriptures on scrolls that were found in various different caves. So the Bible wasn't written all at one time. Nobody just sat down and said, we're writing a Bible. It didn't work that way. The Bible was actually written by many people over many different centuries. And then people who discovered this scripture here, that scripture there, this particular cylinder scroll here or whatever, put it together, and then much later, they said, okay, the Council of Nicaea and King James said, okay, this is what we're going to put together as a book, and we're going to call it a Bible. Just so that you know, the Bible wasn't written at one time. A lot of people have that misconception. But a lot of the information came from the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation. The Enuma Elish, which was written in Akkadian cuneiform, is a Babylonian creation myth. It was recovered by Austin Henry Laird in 1849 in the ruined library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, which is actually in Mosul, Iraq. So in Iraq, where we've gone and done a lot of wars, you always say, well, why are we always going to the Middle East and blowing everything up over there? It's really the source of a lot of ancient information and a lot of ancient records that can tie us, all of us in this room, back to our true ancient past and where we all really came from and how we got here. In other words, were we, meaning Homo sapiens sapien, I believe that we had cousins on this planet prior to Homo sapiens that were genetically modified to become us. I don't believe anybody created a human in terms of these Anunnaki people or Atlanteans creating us, but I do believe that they genetically modified an existing hominid on this planet. And a lot of the information there can be found in the Enuma Elish, because it starts off with the Galactic War. It culminates with people that found their way to a planet, started a civilization there, and then from there they actually began to live and prosper technologically and spiritually. And at some point their planet began to run out of resources. The resources were dwindling. Resources like, the natural gases, oil, different types of elements that they needed to survive on that planet. And one of the main things that they needed was gold. Now, it can be argued whether it was for an atmosphere or whether it was for technological uses, because gold has a very technological element and it can be used for a lot of things. We use gold in virtually almost everything dealing with space. Without gold, space travel for us, satellites and probes and everything else wouldn't even work. We wouldn't have the capability. We couldn't even put an astronaut in space because we wouldn't have gold for their helmet to reflect the UV radiation. So gold is a very technological element used for electrical components. You don't lose anything in friction, so you put 100% energy at point A. At point B, no matter how far away it is, you're going to get that same amount of energy at the other end. You don't lose anything in friction. You need it for reflecting UV radiation and everything else. It's just a phenomenal thing, a phenomenal element that can be used for technology. And to add credence to that, the We Buy Gold movement that happened here in the United States over the last decade was a big push, government-funded program to reclaim as much gold as they possibly could. And they actually did. They reclaimed millions of tons of gold from people that had it on their necks and on their fingers and everything else to use it for technological purposes. So that was a government-funded project, well documented. The We Buy Gold thing was all funded by the government. There's another amazing text out there called the Atrahasis Epic. Okay, now the Epic of Atrahasis, or the Atrahasis Epic, however you want to say it, are more stone tablets that are totally separate and written in a slightly different time from the Enuma Elish that also have the same exact story. It starts off with a galactic war, the creation of our solar system, where Earth came from. Earth wasn't here in the original solar system, okay? It wasn't here, neither was our moon. What happened was there was a planet named Tiamat, which was the fourth planet just outside the orbit of Mars. It may have really been the third planet, because Mars, according now to research based on its orbit, if you rewind it geologically with a computer program, you can discover that Mars was probably a moon of Tiamat that then got released into this very weird elliptical orbit where sometimes it's 180 million miles away and sometimes it's only like 60 million miles away from Earth, depending on perigee. This is why there's a launch window to Mars every 24 months. Every 24 months you can get to Mars in just about, a quick 3-month trip versus taking a year and a half to get there. So it's a very weird orbit. So if you rewind that, you discover it was probably orbiting Tiamat before it exploded, which is now our asteroid belt. So this Tiamat was a water-bearing world, okay? Water-bearing world with land, and most likely a highly technologically advanced civilization lived there. It was about 4 to 6 times larger than Earth. 4 to 6 times larger. Now, before the destruction of Tiamat, I do believe that potentially there were refugees or people who knew about this impending disaster and got away from this potential war act or geological disaster. Some people have different views on exactly how it happened or why it happened, but nevertheless, the evidence of this exploded planet is in our solar system. It's called the asteroid belt. You can't run away from it. It's written about in every single ancient text you can look at. It's called the Hammett bracelet. In modern day texts, the ancient texts, or like the biblical texts and so forth. And of course, we know it as the asteroid belt. There's another ancient text called the Mahabharata. Now, the Mahabharata, a lot of people have never really heard of this. This is actually taught in school in India, the Mahabharata. There's even a full-blown learning cartoon which shows these ancient gods that existed. These Atlantean people, some inhabited that region of the world, and what they did. The Mahabharata is an ancient Indian epic where the main story revolves around 2 branches of a family, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, who in the Kurukshetra, there was a war and a battle for the throne of Hastinapura. Interwoven into this narrative are several smaller stories about people, dead or living, and philosophical discourses. So this entire saga, this Mahabharata saga, is all about a war between gods. And you're going to find this consistent as I go. It's nothing but war, 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 war. Everywhere you look, there's this evidence of this war between gods, fighting between planets in the Mahabharata, fighting over resources and humans and planets and everything else, going to battle against each other, and human beings, from the ground perspective, recording these wars, drawing artwork depicting it, writing scriptures about it, writing poems and songs about it, and so forth. The Mahabharata is a well-known galactic epic written thousands of years ago, and is well-documented, well-recorded, and again, depicting what? Wars. Wars of the gods. Wars between these advanced beings that we call gods, but truly are not gods, just people with more advanced technology. You know, so if, for example, if we took off from this Earth and went to Mars, and we saw, living beings there that weren't as advanced as us, they would probably think that we were gods. It's called a cargo cult. They might, after we left, they might even build statues in our honor that depict the technology that we brought there, okay? If you go to Bikini Atoll, which is an island in the South Pacific, where we took about 5 decades ago, we took the people off the island who lived there, the indigenous people, and then we dropped nuclear bombs on it as experiments. It's unfortunate. But while in that process of doing this experiment, before we did it, we actually took a lot of supplies and gave it to those people, and they saw planes coming in, people with different colored skins and so forth, and technology, and they thought that we were gods. To the point where they tattooed USA on their chests, and they took reeds of grass and sticks and made fake weapons. AK-47s and so forth. They look like AK, but they're just made of, weeds and branches. They even made a fake airplane out of trees, just like the ones that we landed in. And then they would stare up at the sky for hours, waiting for the gods to return so they can get another can of Spam. Yeah. And that's exactly what we've done, unfortunately, in this current era. We've deified people that were just flesh and blood people, and we call on their names and we beg for them to help us and so forth, not realizing that the power to help ourselves is already inside of us. It's not by calling on the names of other people that were just flesh and blood beings, that maybe were smarter, maybe had a little more spirituality, maybe we're here to teach us, but for some reason, inside of us, we always want to deify something. So its longest version, this is the Mahabharata, its longest version consists of over 100,000 scholas, over 200,000 individual verse lines. Each schola is a couplet, and long prose passages, about 1.8 million words in total. The Mahabharata is roughly 10 times the length of the Iliad and Odyssey combined. Okay, think about this. People aren't going to sit around and write this Mahabharata story and just go, I want to write a 2 million page summary of something that doesn't exist. We got nothing to do. Let's just sit around for the next 100 years and just write this crazy story that people will just ostracize us for and kick us out of the community. So I really do think that what they wrote was probably pretty accurate based on their perception and their perspective. Let's see, Ramayana W.J. Johnson has compared the importance of the Mahabharata to world civilization, that of the Bible, the works of Shakespeare, and the works of Homer, Greek drama, and the Quran as well. This is how important this Mahabharata is. In the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, they talk about Vimanas, these flying machines that existed in ancient times. And the Indians weren't the only people that had these flying machines. There were many cultures that had flying machines on all the continents back during the era, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. And even further back than that, much further back. The further back you go, the more amazing the technology gets, actually. But these Vimanas were flying machines, and not only do we have evidence that they existed because of the information written about in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, we even have the flight plans and the instructions on how to build them. Yeah, left behind. This is something you don't really hear talked about a lot. Why is that? Okay, they would fly silently. The elite of the elite only had access, the top ranking officers. They would take people to different planets in these Vimanas, and also the gods would fight and battle each other in these space vehicles as well. So it's an amazing thing. These Vimanas truly did exist. They're powered by mercury, which is a ferrofluid, so they use a ferrofluid vortex engine, which is one of the things that I'm researching at my tech company right now. This is the Shakuna Vimana. This is a drawing done in 1923 from the Vimana text. These were highly technologically advanced spaceships, okay? I mean, with all the evidence of them laying around, you know, on this planet for us to look, and this should be taught in school. You should go to school and learn about Vimanas and anti-gravity, but instead they still have us putting petrol gas inside of our vehicle because why? It powers and funds the petrodollar, which keeps a small amount of people extremely rich. So we're driving around in combustion engines and we should be flying around in Vimanas, okay? Thank you. This is an engine of one of these Vimanas. It's a ferrofluid vortex engine powered inside of a steel torus with a reverse magnetic field. So this reverse magnetic field keeps the ferrofluid from touching the inside of the torus structure itself, which is extremely important because you don't want to build up friction when you apply electromagnetic field. It's real technical stuff. So what they would do is they would bring this ferrofluid up to about 60,000, 70,000 RPM by using a exterior magnet, rotating magnet. And then you would then apply a magnetic field to this rotating mercury, and then you would get this anti-gravity bubble. But one key factor you have to do is you have to apply pressure to the torus, and you have to apply about 250,000 atmospheres or more of atmospheric pressure to the torus. And when you apply the electromagnetic field, you will get this anti-gravity bubble. So whatever is within the range of that bubble will have a significantly reduced amount of weight. It won't make you completely weightless, but it will make it significantly reduced, probably like 70% weight reduction, okay? And so this is amazing technology and amazing information left behind by people on this planet, flesh and blood people, and we know how to, you know, the governments of the world know this exists, and they've already analyzed them, and they've already researched them, they've already been building these things, in my personal opinion. This is where you get the TR-3Bs and so forth. Some of the stuff I talk about on TV, on the Travel Channel, in UFOs, The Lost Evidence. Everywhere you look, you're going to find chariots of fire representing UFOs of one kind or another, spoked wheels, wheels within wheels, gears of time, you know, the wheel of time or alchemy, snakes or human DNA in biogenetic experiments set in physical space for linear time, gods mating with human women to create human race in their image, the blue star gods, which are the blue gods of India. There's also some that you can find in Egypt as well, or the ancient land of Chem, long before Egypt was called Egypt. Blue bloods or royal bloodlines descended directly from the gods. These were these Atlantean people. They were different colors. Some of them were blue and some of them were green, but they didn't have any feathers. The mythical battles of heaven and earth, physical reality versus higher frequency, which is duality, mythical wars between the gods witnessed and depicted by humans since the beginning of time. No matter where you look in all the ancient texts, no matter where it comes from, you're going to find this same scenario right down the line. Why is that? No matter what continent you look on, whether you're reading the Terra Papers, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, the Enuma, Elish, the Atra Asis epic, I mean, I can just keep going on and on and on. No matter where you look, you're going to find this scenario here, where people who came from another place battled each other. They were always battling. They really were this warring race. For whatever reason, nobody truly knows, but a lot of that, unfortunately, has rubbed off on us, because what are we doing? The same thing, you know? I mean, in America, it's like Disneyland. You kind of get, if you don't leave this place, if you don't leave America, you get the illusion that every place in the world is just as calm and tranquil as this place. You know, you have a few shootings here, you have a few things there, but nothing really ever touches my little bubble that I live in, so I think everything is A-okay. But the truth is, this world is pretty treacherous at sometimes, you know, in different places. If you get, you know, I've been around the world twice, and I've gone to a lot of third world countries that have been completely decimated by war. And when you look at it, you see kids, you know, literally scrounging under rocks for bugs to eat, just so they can have something in their stomach. Then you get the realization and the wake-up call, like, oh man, wow, I really have it good. I hit the genetic lottery to be born in a country, you know, where we don't have this situation. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but we're the cause of a lot of that treachery, unfortunately. That's going to change. That's going to change. The Bible itself makes a lot more sense when you really analyze it and view it with the eyes of technology and understanding that these were Anunnakis, not the creator of the universe. And again, let me say again for the record, I do believe that there's a God. I believe that there's a creator energy, a divine energy, a frequency, whatever you want to call it, that has created this third dimensional realm and other dimensions as well. This universe encapsulates 11 dimensions according to quantum physics and quantum mechanics. But what I'm saying to you is that if you look at the original text that the Bible is written in, the word God is a mistranslation. It should be gods with an S, plural. Elohim is also a plural term as well. And it was mistranslated by accident on purpose to give you the monotheistic mindset that there was only one God. And that was ordered by Amun-Ra, okay, who's also known as Marduk. His name is in the modern day Bible. A lot of people don't even know that. His name is in the Torah. His name is in a lot of these religious books and texts. He ordered this to occur. He also ordered everybody to say amen according to thank him. But UFOs in the Bible, Exodus 19:20, here's an example of technology in the Bible. Then the angel of God, which was a UFO, they always called angels that moved around in steel ships, angels. They call them angels, who had been traveling, which means flying, in front of the Israeli army, withdrew and went behind them. In other words, it fell to a strategic position. The pillar of cloud, which is a beam that was descending from this UFO object, we'll call it, it also moved in front and stood behind them, coming between the armies of Egypt and Israel. Throughout the night, the cloud brought darkness to the one side and light to the other side. So neither went near the other light all night long. In Exodus 33:9, the Living Translation version, as he went into the tent, the pillar of cloud, which is this light to me that comes down from this UFO object, or this floating object that has been keeping the two armies separated all night, would come down and hover at the entrance, while the Lord, which in my personal opinion is some type of an alien being, spoke with Moses. And these are my own interpretations. So when you start looking at biblical text from a technological standpoint and analyzing that these aren't magical sky daddies with magic wands, and realizing that they're real technology being described to the best of these people's ability. This is the best they can describe it, by using the terms alien and UFO and flying saucer and weapons of, these certain types of weapons of war. They would call them bow and arrows and so forth that shot lightning. These were cannons and guns and so forth. But this is just one small understanding of some biblical text that's really talking about something extremely technological that the person writing about it is struggling to come up with the right words for. Here's another, a piece of technology in some ancient Sumerian text, and this is talking about a stargate. Okay, this is in some Sumerian tablets. Now, one thing when I read this, you're going to discover that where Yoda got his dialect from. He got it from the Sumerian tablets. Well, George Lucas, got it from the Sumerian tablets because it's kind of Yodish the way it sounds. In this skyship, UFO, this is a UFO I'm basically talking about, in this skyship, and Lil and Ninba to Eridu returned. On the way, Enlil to her landscape showed. The Eden, which is the Garden of Eden, Edin they called it, it was located in Iraq. Extent to her he showed. From the skies, Enlil to her his plans explained. An everlasting plan have I designed, to her he was saying, that which for all time construction shall determine I have laid out. Now stop right there. He's talking about the fact that he's laid out the street grids and the plumbing locations of everything and how the building structures are going to be built and how to set up a city basically. And this same city structure that had been discovered in Sumerian tablets and in Sumerian archaeology still stands till this very day. So he was actually correct about that. For all time he laid this out. Away from Eridu, where dry land begins, my quarter shall be. Larsa will be its name. A place for directing it shall become. That's like his home base. On the banks of Baranu, the river deep waters, will it be located. A twin thereof city shall in the future shall arise. Lagash I shall name it. Between the two of the plans of the line I have drawn, 60 leagues thereafter, a healing city will be built named Sherabak. A city of your own it shall be. Sherabak, the haven city, I shall name it. On the center line it shall be located. To the fourth city it shall be leading. Nibiru key, earth's crossing place, I will name it. A bond heaven earth, which is like a control tower, I shall establish. The tablets of destinies it shall house. Tablets of destinies. These are like these discs that they have these crystal plates on them that have all this amazing information stored inside of them. Everything from navigational arrays and planet scans and DNA and everything are on these tablets of destinies. Once you read the Sumerian tablets, it shall house all missions it will control. With Eridu, 5 cities there shall be counted to eternity. They shall exist on a crystal tablet. Enlil to Nineveh, the master plan he was showing. On the tablet, she saw more markings. Of them and Lil, she inquired, beyond the 5 cities, a chariot place, which is, in my opinion, is a stargate, I shall henceforth build from Nibiru to Earth directly to arrive. In other words, when they walk through this thing, they arrive at their destination instantly. And there's Sumerian cylinder scrolls depicting Enki walking through this stargate. He's got these squiggles all around him, and he's walking through this stargate from Nibiru back to Earth. Only the elite of the elite had access to this technology. The majority of people could never get access to the to this gate, this stargate. And these stargate, or the information about these stargates, has actually been discovered all around the planet. Some of them look like indentions in the stone rock, and these gods, quote unquote, would stand there and then literally vanish. They would put like a key into like a little indention in the stone, and they would vanish. I went to one in Tula, Mexico, the pyramid of Kukulkan, which is actually Thoth. There's a pyramid there in his honor with Toltecs at the top. But there's this indention wall, which I took a picture in, standing there. And in this wall is where they claim that the Mayans claim that he would go and stand there and literally vanish out of the third dimension and go somewhere, and then he would come back at a much later time. He didn't have to get in a spaceship. He would literally walk through this gate that they had there in Tula, Mexico. UFOs in the Bible. There are depictions of UFOs described in the Bible. And biblical translations as far back as the 1600s describe what they thought were flying vehicles. They didn't use the words we have today, but basically here are some of the things that I've discovered just going through the Bible and cataloging a lot of them. To put them all out with every single verse would take me along. That would take up the whole lecture, but basically what we have here, to list all verses would be a task. This is why I decided to include them here. So there are 70 verses describing clouds as vehicles, 15 verses describing pillars, 10 describing dwellings, 160 verses on lights, fire, and vehicles. There are 17 verses describing spinning wheels, 22 verses describing dark, shining objects. There are 37 verses of various objects in the Bible described as UFOs, and they are flying furnaces, burning brushes, eagles' wings, smoke, stars, and other objects of ancient text. In the ancient text that authors use to describe, to the best of their ability, a fleet, the first vehicles of the Elohim. The Elohim is plural. It's a plural term. It's not a singular term. So when they call, if you hear somebody calling Elohim singular and trying to praise the name Elohim, they're actually, it's not, they were incorrect. It's Elohim is a plural version. It's these people, this first, so to speak, galactic collection of people that had access to this planet and to the people on this planet. You also have Zep Tepi in the ancient Kemetic culture long before Egypt was called Egypt. Egypt is a fairly new name. It was called the land of Kem. That name was given to that land by Thoth's dad, Enki, also known as Thothme in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So there was a time called Zep Tepi when the Nibiru came to Earth and built advanced civilizations. And the Nibiru are found all over the temples and structures throughout Egypt. So if you ever take a trip to Egypt, look around, you're going to see the images of the Nibiru etched into the gigantic stone at these temples. The original founders of Kem, now named Egypt, spoke of Zep Tepi, the beginning of time when sky gods, which in my opinion are aliens because they're not from here, descended from the stars on flying boats, which is probably starships, spaceships, and turned mud into water, made it into a new kingdom. The symbol for God is Nibiru, which translates into a being who came from the cosmos. This is directly from Egypt now. During the fabled first time of Tep Zepi, when gods or aliens ruled Earth, the waters of the abyss receded. That's the flood story right there. The primordial darkness was banished, and the human biogenic experiment emerged from the light. The Urshu, which is a category of lesser divinities, lower-ranked aliens like in the Sumerian tablets, they call them the Ijiji, whose title meant the Watchers, preserved vivid recollections of the gods themselves, puissant and beautiful beings called the Nibiru, who lived on Earth with humans in the beginning. And the discoveries emerging from Egypt describe the existence of a worldwide pyramid temple system in prehistory, mounted like antennae on key energy meridians, which were employed by ancient priest scientists that had harmonic tuning forks to stabilize the tectonic plates in the planet's cataclysmic geology. From the mother tongue word Jediah, meaning the way of the word, the power of the word, the ancient Jedi or Jedi priests used the language of light to tune the planet like a giant harmonic bell. Okay? These aren't my words, guys. This is all information you can look up. This all comes from ancient texts. Everywhere you go, these beings were here. Now they're called the Nibiru in this particular epic. This is Edfu Temple, which I had the privilege of going to. And on the outside, you see, looks like Horus and some of the other ancient Egyptian gods. And guess what, guys? These are the Nibiru. These are the Atlanteans. These are the Anunnaki. These are the Elohim. This is Yahweh. This is all those names. These are the people right here. Flesh and blood people that rule over human beings for a period of time on this planet. The Brahmastra is an astra or celestial weapon created by Lord Brahma. This is what I was talking about earlier. It is sometimes known as the Brahmana Astra, Astra referring to missile weapon. Okay, this is from the ancient Indian text, the Bhagavad Gita. As described in a number of Puranas, or hard to say it, Brahmastra is considered to be one of the very deadliest weapons that exist. This weapon had the capability of slaying men on 3 different worlds, according to this ancient text. So this is amazing stuff. And one of the people that used this information in modern times was Robert Oppenheimer, which we're going to go back on his quote here in a second. But this Brahma weapon was just like the destroying star here, this Death Star that would destroy an entire planet. That's what we were talking about in the beginning. When you destroy a planet, you have a lot of debris that floats around. This debris literally wreaks havoc in the area, and people have to escape that debris because when it hits the planet that they're living on, bye-bye for them. So this is J. Robert Oppenheimer. This is the person who created the atomic bomb. He's the father of the atomic bomb. It wasn't Einstein. That's been a kind of a misconception that Einstein created the nuclear weapon. Nah, not really. He actually contacted America and warned him, even creating it. Don't create it, he said. Don't do it. He realized how powerful it was. He says, J. Robert Oppenheimer, now I am become death, destroyer of worlds. He took that right out of the Bhagavad Gita, okay? In an interview about the first test of the atomic bomb, first televised in 1965 as part of a documentary called The Decision to Drop the Bomb, Oppenheimer remarked that upon seeing the test, he thought, now I am become death, destroyer of worlds. He was quoting the 1944 Pravamanda and the Isherwood translation of Hindu scripture from the Bhagavad Gita. So this is where the stuff comes from, guys. It comes from ancient texts. These weapons of mass destruction come from ancient texts. We literally reverse engineer what we read, or we meaning these scientists, and try to figure out how to blow other places up and other people up using ancient technology. This is why when you look at World War II and the history of Hitler, you find out he sent people all over the world scouring this entire planet for what? Ancient records, ancient information about ancient technology. And he got his hands on it and started creating some advanced weaponry. Unfortunately, he got, fortunately, I guess you should say, he didn't get it done quick enough and was taken over. And a lot of those scientists from his experiments were brought to the United States. So here's what happened in Project Paperclip. Project Paperclip wasn't just a handful of scientists from the Reich, the Third Reich. It was literally, we created a Fourth Reich, which came to America. We took over 1,600 scientists from Nazi Germany and put them in positions of power here in the United States. We put them over at the head of the CIA. We put them over the head of the rocketry program. We put them in charge of the secret space program. We put them in over charge of other black budget programs we had running. 1,600 scientists, not just a handful of people like people think. We took the whole Reich and brought it right to America. So we talked about a lot of the wars of the Bible. No matter where you go, you're going to find these wars. These wars are written about. And in our minds, we're thinking, this is the way it must have been back then, and people just had to fight one another. But there's a little bit more to it. And there's a reason why I'm going down this path, and it's going to get more positive towards the end, but I think that it's very important for people to understand that, there's a past that we have here that has established our current era. Everything that's going on back then, if you go to 2019 BCE, you're going to find the same scenario of what's going on right now in 2019 CE. Okay? Why is that? We're in this loop, this time loop, this cycle that we're in. We've got to break out of this cycle, and the only way to break out of this cycle is to really wake up and realize what happened back then and what these gods, these quote-unquote gods, were doing. It's very important for us to understand this. This is from the book of Deuteronomy. It says, suppose you're here in one of the towns that the Lord your God is giving you some worthless rabble about, going to kill people, basically is what they're saying. The Lord says, turn from his fierce anger and be merciful. He will love and give compassion to you and make you a great nation, just as solemnly promised your ancestors. The Lord your God will be merciful only if you obey him and keep all of his commandments I'm giving you today. So, but what happens is he tells them in order for him to get this love, this quote unquote God says, go, it says, let's see. If you find this true, you can prove such a detestable act, in other words, people who aren't worshiping him. If you find people aren't worshiping him, you must attack the town, completely destroy all of its inhabitants, as well as livestock. Then you must pile all the plunder in the middle of the street and burn it. Put the entire town to the torch as burnt offering to the Lord your God. That town must remain in ruin forever. It must never be rebuilt. Keep none of the plunder that has been set apart for destruction. I mean, this is not an all-knowing and loving God. This is in the Bible. This is actually Amun-Ra talking. Here's another one. Then I heard the Lord say to the other men, follow him through the city and kill everyone whose forehead is not marked. Show no mercy. Have no pity. Kill them all, old and young, girls and women, little children. But do not touch anyone with the mark. Begin your task right here at the temple. So they began killing 70 leaders, so forth and so on. Fill its courtyards with the bodies of those you kill. So they went through the city and did exactly as they were told. That's in Ezekiel. You see, the reason why I'm reading this to you, because nobody ever wants to read this to you. They don't want to teach you this information, because you're going to go, what the hell's going on here? You're not going to get this in Bible study. So it's important to understand that this is not God talking. It's not the divine energy, the creation energy of this universe is not talking here. It's a flesh and blood person that has now masqueraded as a God, and people have ran with that, unfortunately. This is what the Lord of hosts had to say. I will punish what Amalek did to Israel when he barred his way and was coming up from Egypt. Go now and attack Amalek and deal with them. Don't spare anybody. Kill them all. I mean, it's always the same thing. Kill everybody. Kill the women. Kill the children. Kill the asses, it even says, So we do that today. What happens? You go to high school, and then the military comes a calling, and they say, okay, we want to recruit you, and in return, we're going to give you a free education. You sign up for that. Then what do? They go, the same leader people, that in this case, we know they're not gods here, they say, okay, we want you to go halfway around the world, and we want you to blow everybody up. Kill the women, kill the children, kill the animals, kill everybody. And in return, we're going to give you a free education. And then we do that, okay? So here's a depiction of that. Hey kid, don't blame me. I'm really a good guy. I just want to get a free education. This is what we do. This has been going on for eons and eons and eons and eons and eons, non-stop. Take people, tell them to go kill other people who they don't know, take a $1 billion weapon and blow up a guy riding a $5 camel. Okay, for living in a $5 tent. It's just, it's crazy. This is what we've done. We've copied exactly what the ancient texts have talked about people doing, and they call them gods. Now we call them presidents and politicians. Okay? Same people, different name. No matter where you go, you're going to find evidence of ruins on this planet. This is Uruk, one of the first cities. It was in a massive, massive war in ancient times. A war that left part of the city vitrified, where that means weapons were used that turned sand into glass. Here's another place, Mohenjo-Daro, where the bodies are still laying in the street right now in the Indus Valley over there in India. These bodies, some of them still even holding hands. The buildings are vitrified. In other words, the sand and stone has been turned into glass. This is evidence of a nuclear weapon. There's evidence that these bodies were never scavenged by animals. These bodies, the animals won't even eat them. Why? Because they're still radiated, and when you go there with the radiation devices, you can pick up a higher level of background radiation than normal. There's still radiation emanating out of this region right now, still today. Ancient nuclear war. Bodies laying on steps. This is still in Mohenjo-Daro, completely frozen in time. The evidence of these wars is still on this planet. If you go to Egypt and put your hand in the sand and just keep doing it, you'll bring up these balls of glass. There were pyramid wars, according to some of these Sumerian tablets. And these balls of glass, well then, of course, what we do, we knew they were from the wars of the gods, so we deified the glass, and we would carve them into scarab beetles and so forth, and make them into jewelry to honor the gods. But the only way you get balls of glass and sand is from a 3,000-degree explosion. Okay? So what could have caused that in the ancient past? This is about Mohenjo-Daro, which occurred about 4,000 years ago, Indus Valley civilization, which was known to rival Egypt and the Mesopotamian Sumerians as well. They had toilets, they had advanced technology, they had running water, they had advanced building techniques, megalithic structures, you name it, all was there. And this city was destroyed by somebody who was probably a jealous cousin of the current ruler of that location. It was always relatives fighting each other, these Anunnaki or Atlantean relatives. And evidence of that is even in the story of Atlantis. It was, it was sunk in a day. Or some people thought it might have, the cylinder or the circular piece might have took off. But either way, it was because of an act of war. In the 16th century painting, illustrated in a battle in the Bhagavad Gita, you can see here these god figures in the sky. And here we go again, during the battle of Kurukshetra. It's always a battle. There's always a battle going on. And this is, again, more evidence that the warring race that we've become is based off of how we were taught, this system that we've been put into. No matter where you go, you're going to find this battle. In the Torah, there's hundreds of battles as well. No matter where you look, and you're going to find out in the Torah, if you read it, you're going to find this name, Marduk, 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 Marduk. Who's Marduk? Well, in the land of Chem, pre-dynastic era of Egypt, his name is Amen-Ra. Yeah, one of the most brutal rulers of all time, killing, crazy guy, would just, when he got tired of people, he would just wipe out, like, let's kill 100,000 people today. Too many of them to feed right now, whatever. And this guy was crazy. Brutal ruler, caused so many wars. 2 of the pyramid wars were caused by him. He wasn't supposed to take over Egypt before the age of Pisces. And he wanted to take over before Pisces hit, because they all ruled in these celestial cycles. So because of that, he started a war to take over early. And he actually won that war. And he ushered in the era of Pisces before Pisces even arrived. And he's still currently the ruler of this era. Pisces isn't completely gone yet. This is the fish you see on the back of cars of some people. They don't realize that fish is representing Amen-Ra. Okay, and the era of, the new era is coming in by 2025, and that's when we move into a whole new era, a whole new celestial cycle, but it hasn't gotten here. We're very, very close to the end of his rule and his reign. But this is in the Jewish history library. You can find this. You can find it in the Torah. You can find it in the modern day Bible. Everything I'm telling you is available to you at your fingertips, especially with smartphones today. So where are we? I got about 24 minutes. Okay, scientists know that we're not from here. So even our solar system is alien to this sector of the galaxy. We actually originate from something called the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. Okay, our galaxy, our solar system was planted here in this process of absorption by the Milky Way. So the solar system that we live in right now is part of peer-reviewed science in history books now, even in modern day books that kids are going to school right now. This solar system is part of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy. We originate from elsewhere. It's being absorbed and sucked in this gigantic loop by the Milky Way. So right where this yellow dot is, I don't know if you can see that yellow dot right here, that's our sun, so to speak, and we orbit that star right now. But right there is where you can see this intersection of these other stars. These are all stars. This is the Sagittarius being absorbed by the Milky Way. And it's still currently happening today. Scientists couldn't figure out why there was this swath of stars in the sky kind of catty-corner to what they thought was the Milky Way. And now, just up until about maybe 8 years ago, they finally figured it out with more advanced technology that we're part of the Sagittarius dwarf galaxy being absorbed into the Milky Way. And this process is still going on. Eventually, we will collide with Andromeda, and we will become Milkomeda. That's what they're going to call it. But that's a few billion years away. Don't worry about it right now. Rogue planets are pretty constant in the universe. There are literally trillions of rogue planets, planets that have flown out of their solar systems for whatever reason and have been captured gravitationally by other star systems. And this is what's talked about in a lot of the ancient texts, and I think what led to the Nibiru situation, where you have a star that orbits our sun in a very strange elliptical orbit that appears to be captured by our solar system, not originating from here. And when you have those kind of mergers like I was talking about earlier, this is where you get a lot of gravitational fields that interact with each other and wreak havoc in different solar systems. That's why I'm showing you this. It can cause all different kind of crazy things to happen and occur inside of our solar system. Things like Uranus being tilted on its side. Why is it tilted on its side? Gravitationally, something massive came through here billions of years ago and literally yanked it and turned it on its side. We have a lot of those occurrences. We have Mercury, which orbits on its axis in reverse because something came by and slowed down its rotation and put it in the opposite direction. All these things occur. They found out that Saturn, it should have been in a different position than where it is now, but because of gravitation, they can rewind the geological clock and see that something came through and put it where it's at right now. So all these things happen. When Tiamat exploded, a huge chunk of it moved out of the location where it's at and became Earth. It swung into this particular orbit, recoalesced as Earth. This is why when you go down into some of these mines and you go down, different layers, and you can see that you're now at a layer that would be 300 million years ago, and you find pottery. Where's the pottery coming from? 300 million years ago. My hypothesis, and I'm doing a whole documentary on this, is that when Tiamat exploded, there was a lot of technology on that planet, evidence of civilizations on that planet. When a huge chunk of it swung away and became the Earth, which is in the Enuma Elish, talking about separating the waters from the waters, and it talks about how the Earth was created. Some of that was encapsulated and wrapped into some of the strata of this planet. And when you go down many layers in different mines, gold mines and oil mines and everything else, anywhere where you go, coal mines, you're going to find bits and pieces of remnants of ancient civilizations, no matter how far you go, because it existed already when it was part of another planet. This Earth used to be part of another planet. It came here with water, it came here with geologic material and everything else already on it for life. Now, this is the NASA image that I had showed you before. Any Star Trek fans in here? All right. Just ironic. I mean, this is just something I'm just showing you. I mean, just kind of ironic that you have the sun as a star in the Star Trek logo. If you rotate it clockwise to 2 o'clock, you just kind of get this match of the NASA, photo above. That kind of shows the orbit of this brown dwarf star through our solar system. Just kind of ironic. I think they really know what they're doing at all times. They just kind of hide the truth in plain sight. The Dogon tribe talked about these nomos coming from Sirius B. They knew about Sirius B, which is a star system I showed you earlier in this presentation. Sirius star system has A, B, and C. B is a star that ran out of fuel, and people came from that star. Could these have been more, people just trying to escape a dying star and find somewhere else to set up shop? Is that why they came here? But they taught the Dogon tribe a lot of information. The Dogon tribe were the original inhabitants of the land of Chem, which is now called Egypt. They migrated out of Egypt into Mali, Africa. Egypt had been taken over many different times. A lot of people don't know that Egypt had been overthrown 7 times, at least 7 times, by many different peoples. Was always just one person, one race of people that ran Egypt, and then everybody wants to fight over who ran Egypt. Egypt was multi-race, multiracial over time, over thousands and thousands of years. And sometimes it was all black, and sometimes it was all Arabian, Arab, and sometimes it was all Caucasian. Just various different eras of the same region over different periods of time. Okay, it wasn't all just one race, but this is one of the original people there from the land of Chem. These Dogon tribe, they were taught by the Nomo, or these Atlantean or these Anunnaki people, whatever you want to call them. They always look the same in the scrolls. They were taught about the star system Sirius B long before we discovered it even existed. They talk about the planets in our solar system. They were given this wisdom about the shape, the sizes, the colors, and everything else about the planets in our solar system, the locations of their orbits. I mean, how, these people know this stuff. It's really, really amazing. They were far ahead of all of our what we call advanced technology. They knew about this for many thousands of years. Okay. This one here. This is NASA, and I want to show you this about brown dwarf stars real quick.
WISE is the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer. WISE is going to find hundreds of millions of objects spread over the entire sky. And for us, that's like a treasure map. We think there are about as many grains of sand on this beach as there are stars in the entire universe. So the task of finding rare objects in the universe that we're interested in requires the maps that WISE is going to make. It's a bit like using this metal detector here to try to find gold coins that are buried in all of this sand. WISE consists of a fairly modest-sized telescope, about 40 centimeters in diameter, that would sort of fit under your arm. WISE is going to survey the entire sky in 4 infrared wavelengths over 6 months. All-sky surveys are one of the basic tools that astronomers use to find interesting and unusual objects. It's sort of like the GPS of astronomy. One of the most exciting things that you expect to find with an all-sky survey like WISE is the unexpected. We expect surprises, things that we have no idea about today. One of the projects WISE is going to be doing is studying the population of near-Earth objects. These are asteroids and comets whose orbits get close to Earth's orbit. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to hit the Earth, but we do want to pay some attention to them. With WISE, we'll be able to tell something about how many there are, what their sizes are, and what they're made out of. Whether they're soft and crumbly like this ball of sand, or solid rock like this rock right here. In visible light, an object that's small and shiny reflects the same amount of sunlight as an asteroid that's big and dark. But when we look with an infrared telescope, we're seeing heat that's emitted from more sides of the asteroid, so we get a much better true measurement of the object's size. And this is important because it allows us to tell whether or not we're dealing with an object that's this big or an object that's this big. The maps that WISE is going to be generating can be used to find all sorts of rare and unusual objects. One of these objects is the most luminous galaxy in the entire universe. But finding it is about like trying to find one particular grain of sand on this entire beach. One of the other rare types of objects that WISE may find is possibly the nearest star to our sun. We think that there's a good chance that our sun actually does have a closer neighbor than we already know about, and it's likely to be a very cool type of star called a brown dwarf. The temperature may be room temperature or even colder, maybe as cold as an iceberg, say.
So basically, that was before they discovered it. They knew it was out there. That's why they were looking. But this WISE telescope has now discovered the brown dwarf star that they were talking about and orbits our sun. So let's see what this astronomer has to say real quick. Okay, how do you make it play?
12 VP 113, jokingly dubbed Biden, get it? Corey Powers, editor-at-large for Discovery Magazine in studio. How you doing, Corey?
VP Biden.
Right on.
There we go.
Correct on that. 2 images show you. This is the arrow obviously pointing to it. But there are 3 dots on here. One is red, one is green, one is blue.
Right.
What's significant?
So this is the actual discovery image. Basically, 2 astronomers were looking, one little patch of sky very, very far away, looking for exactly this kind of thing. Stars don't move. Planets or anything that's like a planet does. So this is color-coded. This is what they saw on different nights. They're looking for one thing moving, and they color-coded it to show that all these stars are staying still. This thing is moving, and the way it's moving...
So this is just one...
It's one object, color-coded.
Is Pluto on this?
Pluto's in a whole different part of the sky.
So this is way out there.
This is way out there. This is more than twice as far away as Pluto.
Unbelievable. Why does this matter, Corey?
Well, there are 2 ways you can look at it. I think I look at it first of all as an exploration question. That we know where we are on Earth. We've mapped our planet. Our solar system is still terra incognita. It's full of surprises. This object is something that astronomers said shouldn't even be there. There's a whole other solar system beyond the planets that we know that shouldn't even be there. There's a whole other solar system beyond the planets that we know that shouldn't even be there. There's a whole other solar system beyond the planets that we know that are full of these things that are sort of planets, sort of comets. Some of them they call dwarf planets. That's what they're calling this one. What we're seeing is we're seeing our neighborhood. We're seeing what's around us. And then the second part is we're seeing where we came from around us. And then the second part is we're seeing where we came from around us. And then the second part is we're seeing where we came from around us. And then the second part is we're seeing where we came from.
Go back to the other image, you guys, and we'll show, because we're over here on the left, right?
That's right. So we're over here.
Okay.
There's
Pluto's out here.
Yeah.
And this thing called Maki is way out here.
That's right. So that's another dwarf planet. If you want to find out where VP113 or Biden is located, keep walking about another 30 feet that way.
Wow. We can see that far.
And this is the closest it gets this time. When it really gets cooking, it's 15 times as far away as Pluto.
That's incredible.
Takes 4,300 years to go around the sun.
That's incredible.
Takes 4,300 years to go around the sun.
That's incredible.
Takes 4,300 years to go around the sun.
I don't know how you know that, but I trust you.
So basically, I mean, you get the idea. There's a lot of stuff going on inside of our solar system. They call it the inner Oort cloud. In other words, it's inside our system, but far out there, orbits our sun. This is just one of many objects orbiting our sun. They've now cataloged over 250,000 other planets outside the orbit of Pluto. European Space Agency, ESA.int. Look it up, guys. This is another star system they found billions of light years away with planets that have the same atmospheric gases and everything else that we would need for life on Earth. But the thing is, they want to keep you looking at these star systems that are millions and billions of light years away when there's life right above our heads. I do believe that in ancient times, a multiracial civilization entered into our solar system, many different races, and the evidence it could be the genetic markers that we have on us today. I do believe after the Tower of Babel incident, they took our cousins, genetically modified them, spread them around the planet, according to biblical texts, but also that's copied from the Sumerian tablets, and put genetic markers on us in different regions of this planet, making us different races of people, even though we're still one human race. The Sumerian Kings list is located in the Anomalies Museum in Oxford, England, and it talks about these kings that rule over the planet.
When kingship was first handed down from heaven, the city of Eridu was chosen as the seat of kingship. In Eridu, Alulim ruled for 28,800 years as king, and Alagar ruled for 36,000 years. The two kings ruled a total of 64,800 years, and then kingship was removed to Bad Tabira. In Bad Tabira, Enmenluana ruled 43,200 years, Enmengalana ruled 28,800 years, and Dumuzi, the shepherd, ruled 36,000 years. The three kings ruled a total of 108,000 years, and then kingship was removed to Larak. In Larak, Ensipaziana ruled 28,800 years before kingship was removed to Sippar. In Sippar, Enmedurana ruled 21,000 years, and then Sippar was abandoned and its kingship removed to Shurupik. In Shurupik, Ubartutu ruled 18,600 years, and then the flood came. 8 kings in 5 cities ruled 241,200 years before the flood swept over the land.
And where does that information come from? You can go to, this is one of my Anunnaki history admins, Dominic Joyce. Thanks, Dominic, for taking a visit and making this little quick video for me. This is the Sumerian Kings list, where all that information comes from. It's on display at the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, England. You can go there and take a trip there and take a look at it for yourself. Well-documented information, guys. All this information is at our fingertips, or if you get a passport, you can go see it in person. Not taught in schools for some weird reason. I don't know why. Okay? I got to get down here a little bit because we're running a little bit out of time. In the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which is really important, I talk about this in my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, okay? He says, I builded the Great Pyramid, patterned after the Pyramid of Earth's force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it, I builded my knowledge of magic science, which translates into advanced technology, so that it might be here when I again return from Amenti. Those are some halls that exist underneath the Great Pyramid that were just discovered a couple of years ago. Hundreds of rooms about a mile deep. I, while I sleep in the halls of Amenti, my soul, roaming free, will incarnate and dwell amongst men in one form or another. And what he had this chamber underneath the Great Pyramid where he would go in, put a body, an avatar body in, when you go deeper into the text, and he would transfer his consciousness from one body into the next, walk amongst men unlike a man, and leave the other avatar body in a regeneration chamber to regenerate for 100 years at a time. Okay, and so by doing this method, he had been already alive for close to 100,000 years. There's some amazing stuff talked about here. No matter where you go on the planet, you're going to find sphinxes. And if you look at the Great Sphinx of Egypt, and you look at the weathering pattern on it, and the alignment with the constellation of Leo, and go back 13,000 years, which is what some of the scholars are saying. Well, the mainstream is saying 4 to 5,000. Other scholars, a little bit less mainstream, are saying about 13,000. Well, that's at the Ice Age. It's not a good time to build megalithic structures during the Ice Age. Especially if you know it's coming, because these people were very advanced, and you wouldn't want the Ice Age to come and then destroy what you just built, or to come after you build it. You build it before it gets destroyed, you build it after it still can get destroyed, or you wouldn't even have a place to build it. So kind of weird to build it at that time. You go back one more precessional period, you're at the Quaternion extinctions, you're at extinction level events that are happening on the planet that are not a great time to build the Sphinx. So then you go back one more precessional period, and now you're around 36 to 39,000 years ago, a perfect time to build the Great Sphinx. And ironically, around the same time, the Emerald Tablets was written by Thoth the Atlantean, and he claimed to have built the Great Pyramid. So the aging of the Sphinx, the timing of the alignment lines up perfectly with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, one of the oldest records of text on this planet. This is just kind of a funny thing, the Prometheus Sphinx and the Bushegi Sphinx in Romania, which I've done a 2-hour documentary about this Bushegi Sphinx. There's actually a room in there, a chamber, that you can't get through. It has this weird force field inside of it. Only the people with a specific bloodline can walk through that force field because it resonates at a specific frequency. These structures have been found all over the planet, usually around the same parallel around the globe, and they're very similar to each other. Why? Because in the Emerald Tablets, Thoth is told to go around the planet, take duplicate what he did in the land of Chem, duplicate the construction, duplicate the structures, duplicate the advanced technology everywhere you go. And so he sent this crew out and told them to go around the planet and duplicate what we did here in the land of Chem. And that's exactly what they did. This is why you see structures all over the planet that match up, because the Atlanteans were a global civilization. We're on top of Atlantis right now. You'll find pyramids everywhere you go on this entire continent. On this entire planet, every continent. This one, I don't have time to show you that video there, but I do want to show you something before we get out of here. There's evidence of structures on the moon. So this is a structure in one of Mike Barra's book, Ancient Aliens on the Moon, Chapter 9. This photo was actually enhanced by me. It's by me, Billy Carson, years ago. But this structure's up there on the moon. And I don't know how blurry it is from here, you guys' perspective, but it's a lot more clear on the computer screen. But these are artificial structures here. This is almost like a ziggurat type of a structure. It has geometry to it, and it doesn't match the surrounding terrain. So we consider it to be an anomaly. And it's a number. This number here, AS11385564. If you typed it in Google, you can find the image yourself, the raw image, and you can actually download it to your computer directly from NASA, and you can analyze it for yourself. This is an object that I discovered a few years ago. This is an anomaly. What this exactly is, it's kind of dark up there, wow. What this exactly is, this structure, I can't specifically tell you, but there's an object here. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's clear on my screen, but it's kind of dark because it's inside of a cavern. But this is an Ankh laying up on the side, or something that looks like an Ankh laying up over here. It's kind of dark on the screen, a little darker than I thought it would be. But anyway, there's an Ankh type object there, which is very bizarre. What would that be doing coming from a Mars image? This is one of the first discoveries I ever made going into some Mars anomaly hunting. And this particular object here is a pyramid in the background. It's very weathered. Okay, it's a weathered anomaly, weathered pyramid. In front of it, there's this object, when all I did was just pull them forward and blow them up. It looks like a sphinx type of an object or anomaly. This anomaly here, which I brought forward, looks like some type of technology. It doesn't look like a rock to me. Could it be a rock? Maybe it could be. I just never seen a rock that looked like that. And this object, to me, looks like technology and not a rock. Okay, and there's even an object over here that looks like a broken piece of equipment or something. But no matter where you go on this particular plateau, this is called the Presidential Plateau here on Mars, there's anomalies all over the place. But this is one of the very first that I discovered. The top is the original raw image, as you can see. And then it's located at the washington.edu website. Here's another very strange anomaly I discovered. What is this doing on Mars? This is, okay, this is available on NASA JPL Caltech website. The Gigapan was done by one of my anomaly hunters, Neville Thompson, who does a phenomenal job putting together stitched images from NASA so that we can hunt and look for anomalies. What is this doing there? When you look into the ancient Sumerian tablets, you discover that there was two civilizations running concurrently, one on Mars and one on Earth at the same time. The Ijiji working class operated the base on Mars, and the other Anunnaki used human beings as slaves on Earth. They actually went to battle at one point, or were going to go to battle at one point in the ancient past. That looks like a Ford, I know, it's crazy. Here's another very strange anomaly I discovered through Opportunity rover. I mean, you know, I don't know what it is. It just doesn't look like a rock. I can't see from this angle how clear it looks for you guys, but it's a very bizarre anomaly here that doesn't add up, but is really there. Here's another anomaly by one of our greatest anomaly hunters, Martine Graney. I mean, to me, it looks like a face, partially covered in mud and debris here because there was a global flood on Mars twice. But that's, you can see that's an anomaly there. Here goes an object that looks like a piece of technology, something broken, some type of structure, something that was created with intelligence, just kind of laying there, doesn't match the surrounding terrain. In my opinion, it looks to be artificially created. Here's another piece of, to me, it looks like it's artificially created. You can see geometry. You can see that it kind of, the more you look at it, you can see that it kind of looks like some piece of machinery, something broken. You'll find on Mars a lot of broken stuff there because why? Wars and floods. They call Mars the god of war for a reason. That's kind of really blurry here to see. I don't know if you can make this out, but this is a very strange anomaly here. Here's a group of people sitting around having a conversation. And what's weird is, as the Opportunity rover is going by, this guy looks back from behind the chair to look at the rover, okay? So if these were just things that were inanimate objects and stones and rocks, why is this guy turning around to look at the rover? And you'll see this pretty consistent. When the rover goes by, a lot of these quote-unquote potentially biological entities, they always look at the rover. You know, I've never seen statues turn to look at something. But this is clear as day, and this raw image is available to you. We have all the links, the source data, and everything else. Just go to our United Family of Anomaly Hunters page on Facebook, get the raw links for yourself. Go to Martian Genesis on Facebook, get the raw links for yourself, and pull them down raw, and then you analyze them for yourself and see what you see there, okay? This is another amazing anomaly. This is kind of reminiscent of the Mohenjo-Daro incident where you have here two bodies laying side by side. Looks like they were just thrown down in that spot, potentially died right there. This has been analyzed by thousands of anomaly hunters now over the last few years, and everybody's coming up with the same image. So when you download the raw image, put it into your photo editor to take a cleaner look at it and zoom in, zoom out, they're coming up with the same look. It looks like this, potentially it looks like a female has fallen over on the side of this male, and for whatever reason, it looks like they died right there, kind of like Mohenjo-Daro. This is a very strange anomaly here, okay? I mean, what is this? Hey, this looks like a dinosaur. Could it be a statue? Maybe, but what's this thing doing behind it with some type of a stick or something, or whatever this is in his hand is behind it? Or take it back. Oh, this controls something. Okay, hold on. Yeah, I know, right? Broke this thing. Let's see if it escaped. Okay. There we go. Okay. So this is a strange anomaly. I mean, you can see the arrow here pointing down at this thing, and it's, I mean, what is it doing? We don't know. We don't know what it is. We're not saying it's specifically anything. We're just saying it's there. You can look it up yourself. Pretty strange anomaly. Okay. I only got about 1 minute, guys, so I'm going to go through a couple of these really quick. Here's another anomaly here on the side of a mountain cliff. Okay. This is a massive, massive anomaly too. Hard to be a coincidence that they would be carved exactly like that. kind of like a giant almond head sticking out the side of a mountain on Mars. Another strange anomaly here, okay? More reminiscent of Mohenjo-Daro, bodies laying in the street, well, bodies laying here. This is evidence of, to me, ancient wars that occurred on this planet. That's why they call it the God of War. This is like a 4-story tall Egyptian type of statue etched into the side of Victoria crater on Mars. Okay, this is another amazing anomaly, because even to the left of this anomaly, there's even more amazing anomalies. Well, we can't show everything tonight, obviously, but this is an amazing anomaly here, kind of Egyptian-style motif etched into the side of a mountain. And I don't know who these guys are, but they might be our cousins. Okay, inside of this carved out, whatever this is, you can see a weird-looking thing here, and you can see a weird thing here and a weird thing here. We don't know what they are. Maybe it's just rocks that have faces. I don't know. But they're always looking at the camera. That's all I can say. This is one of my discoveries. I found this clip here, this gigapan, and I was going through it, and I was like, wow, there's something in these shadows. So I just drew a circle around them, and I just cleared out the background noise. And these things popped up here. What they are, and this is in the water. What they are, I don't know. I just know that they just don't look like rocks to me. They didn't look like rocks, so I highlighted them. Here's an amazing anomaly that made it to Ancient Aliens. Okay, this is clear as day. This is on Ancient Aliens 2 seasons ago, I believe it was now. And so this anomaly we found, it's amazing. It looks like a statue that's kind of been tilted over. You can even see the nodules at the bottom where it used to mount inside of something. And it's just laying there on the surface of Mars, okay? Here's another one of my discoveries. This looks like a vehicle that's kind of trapped on this wall here. And I know it's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to show you a better picture because we colorized it so you can see the separation of this entity and this entity here. So you can see they're trying to figure out how to get this dislodged, this vehicle, whatever this is. This looks like a vehicle or kind of an advanced. There's a wheel back here. And these two people are trying to dislodge it. If this is a statue, it's a very weird statue. I don't know if I'd build a statue that looked like that. But to me, I think these are people that are alive. In my personal opinion, I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. Another amazing anomaly, an SUV out in the middle of the desert on Mars. Okay, you can't see it from up there, but we give you all the image links so you can Google them and you can look them up for yourself, the raw images. Here's another weapon of war, a vehicle here on Mars. Look at this. Spirit rover took this image right before it was destroyed. After it took this was the last image Spirit rover took before it blew up. Okay, went offline. I believe that it was destroyed on purpose because behind this scene here, there's actually more weaponry behind that scene. And I think they detected it maybe and they destroyed it. But this is clearly some type of a tank object, and back here it's like a gun turret. You can see the shadow on the ground, what we would call a gun turret on Earth. Is it that? Maybe it's not, but it's very similar to one. And people always ask me, well, is there trees and stuff? Yes, there is. This is Mars. This is Mars. Here's all the imagery, here's all the direct source image information. You can look it up for yourself. They have trees, they have now billions of tons of water. NASA had a press release 2 years ago. Oh yeah, by the way guys, here's a mountain. This is in the middle of the afternoon. Here's a mountain with water coming down the side on national TV. You can go to NASA.gov and play the video back, or go to their YouTube channel. They just found a 12,000 hectare lake of water on Mars. And now all of a sudden they're saying Mars is warmer than Earth at certain latitudes. It's 99 degrees in the summer at the equator. Kind of toasty, huh? And they said, the LA Times and New York Post said that Detroit and Michigan were colder than Mars in the winter at specific areas where these rovers are located, okay? So now they're coming out with, oh, this oxygen. Oh, by the way, the soil on Mars is better for growing crops than on Earth. Well, how would they know that? How would they know that? These are official press releases. Why would they say something like that? Well, they're setting up this breakaway civilization, which I believe is already there. Elon Musk is going there with 80,000 people. Tickets are already sold out. And they're going on a one-way trip and not coming back, okay? Because why? I think there's infrastructure already there. Here's a giant head here. Here's another technological device I discovered. It looks like an airplane to me. Maybe it's not, but it looks like one. I see a fuselage, I see a wing, and I see a tail. It looks kind of partially destroyed, but to me, it's there. Here's another Ankh just laying out on the ground. Evidence that the culture here was also there. Oh, I don't know what this is, but I mean, it kind of looks like a shuttle. Yeah, okay. Just laying out in the Martian desert. And what is R2-D2 doing out there? This was even on CNN. This here, we made CNN with this one. What is this doing here? What is that? Now you start to, where did he get this information from for these movies? Maybe he took down some of this raw NASA data himself and found these things. Here's a building with a head on it, etched into it. I mean, this is a weird thing. We don't know what it is, but you can see a head on top of this thing that looks like a structure. Is it an ode to somebody, like a dedication to somebody? We don't know, but it looks like Colonel Sanders. I was just going to say, it looks like Colonel Sanders. Here's a weapon of war, okay? A tank just laying out there in the Martian desert. Here's the helmet. And here's a battleship discovered by Joe White, who was also on Ancient Aliens, one of our members here. So this is a modern day battleship, what we call modern day, but this is one in ancient times laying on the surface of Mars. And I only got a couple more here. This is a dilapidated structure. You can see it here, very clear as day. Another person here with a helmet buried in mud. You can see the helmet, you can see the nose, you can see the mouth. Unfortunately, this person didn't make it. That was by Rami Bar-Alam, one of our greatest anomaly hunters. And here's the other side of Victoria Crater where you can see a face here. I call this the Queen. You can see a Toltec here like you do at the top of the pyramid of Kukulkan in Tula, Mexico. You can see the Toltec head here at his body. This is the Queen here. This is another amazing discovery. I looked and I was like, this is crazy. What is this stuff doing here? What is this stuff in this structure? Just laying out there for everybody to see from Mars Curiosity rover. And this was like partially broken, so we put it back together artificially so you could see what it might have looked like, whatever that is, we don't know. Yeah, I mean, just the craziest things you'll find out here. Now this is Venus, and I'm gonna wrap it up. This is Venus. I discovered this. I decided to go to usgs.gov and look at the radar imaging of Venus because nobody had done it before. And within minutes of zooming in, I started seeing what to me looked like cities. And I can relate it to, this is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. This is a city, in my personal opinion, on Venus. And taking a look at it, if you zoom in even closer, you look at it on a computer, it's a lot more clear. You can see individual roads, buildings with tops on them and everything else. Just an amazing find. Now, something that, let me see if I can find it here real quick before we wrap up. Is it in this image? Okay, now it's in a different image. Oh, here it goes. This is it here. This building, there's a building here. It looks a lot clearer on the computer. And at the top of this building, there's a stick coming up, or this structure coming up with a cross. Right here. See that? I don't know if you can see it. This building here has this tall cross sticking out of the top. And here's one last structure I'm going to show you guys, and we're going to wrap it up. This is a structure here on Venus. It's in this angle here. It's got stairs, it's got structure. What is this doing on Venus? We were told that Venus was inhabitable and it rained molten iron and all this crazy stuff. Well, now when you look at the current science data, it doesn't say that anymore. By the way, in the 70s, Russia sent 14 missions to Venus that landed on Venus. They landed the Venera missions on Venus. They sent probes there that landed using parachutes. So if it rained molten lead and all this atmospheric pressure would crush everything and would burn up in the atmosphere, how did these probes make it to the ground? Okay? Like, I think they're lying. I mean, if parachutes that strong, they should make everything out of that parachute material. Be indestructible, okay? So that's what I have for you guys tonight. I wanted to show you evidence of ancient civilizations, evidence of what I think now are current civilizations still in our solar system, and some anomalies that don't add up with what we've been taught in school and everywhere else. I'll be at the table over here with my book. I'll be more than happy to take photos with you guys, sign books, and so forth. I do have about probably 30 or 40 here with me. And if you have any additional questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much.